Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday. It's May 28th. It is 2024. We have a 10-game baseball slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by my good buddy, Keith Eys819. Keith, fantastic ending to the basketball game. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It was a fun little sweat there, but it would have just delayed the inevitable, right? We knew Boston was coming out of this thing. Even if Halliburton wouldn't have went down, it was going to be a tough road for Indy. Shout out to Nemhard and McConnell, though. Like, they stepped up huge and at least made these last two games close. But yeah, pretty obvious outcome, I would say. I think everybody thought Boston would come out of the East, and they really haven't been tested. So we'll be really interested to see how these finals play out.
Yeah, I want nothing more than Kyrie against Boston. I mean, like, it's Luka versus Tatum, but like Kyrie versus Boston, and the way the Mavs are playing right now, like, I think it would be 6 or 7 game fantastic series and just fun to watch. And I know we're here to talk, baseball and stuff, but I really do feel like that series is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And Dallas up 3-0. You kind of assume that Dallas is going to win one of the next 4 games. I mean, I think if you're Boston, you kind of want them to maybe go one extra game to get an extra, few days. Because Tatum looks like he's a little banged up, but yeah, I mean, Luka's banged up. No waiting for them once they win. So, yeah, gonna be fun. And Derek in chat, can we take a moment to celebrate Angel Hernandez retiring? Keith and I were just talking about that pre-show.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So a lot has happened. For everyone that is hanging out with us on Monday night, Memorial Day, just want to, continue to honor our military and mourn the military that we've lost and who have not come back, and Memorial Day is a special day to remember those people, because we wouldn't be a free country had it not be for our military. So always keeping those people in the military in our thoughts and prayers. Let's play some fantasy. Let's play some bets and let's have some fun here. We got Washington at Atlanta. We start with Atlanta. I came on the live show last night when Will and TJ were talking baseball.
Poor Chief.
I know, man. I just Atlanta, like, as a baseball fan, you never want to see anybody get hurt, but like Acuna and Strider, like, that just stinks. And Ronald Acuna is like, he quickly becoming like one of my favorite people to watch, like him and De La Cruz, just because they're so electric. So definitely hoping for a speedy recovery and a healthy Acuna next season. But yeah, hated to see that, but we should have started with that news anyway, because we're talking about the game. 8.5 total. Atlanta's a 250 favorite here. We got Jake Irvin and Max Fried facing off against each other. Any interest here in Jake Irvin?
No, even without Acuna, this Atlanta offense is still really good. They're getting a couple of other guys back, Austin Riley and Sean Murphy returning to the lineup. So the loss of Acuna outweighs that for sure, but at least they do get some of their other stars back. Still a really good offense here. And Jake Irvin's had a really solid season. And I think he might be at least an average pitcher, but I'm not playing him against Atlanta here.
Yeah, the one thing, like, Jake Irvin doesn't project to be like a above average strikeout pitcher. Like, he is someone that is going to generate ground balls. He's going to limit damage against like righties, but he doesn't project to be like this like huge strikeout pitcher. And like, even with no Ronald Acuna, you still have to be able to attack the Braves. Like, if you can't attack this lineup, you're going to be hurting. And like 19% Ks, 18% last season, 18.7%. Gives up a lot of hard contact and just honestly just doesn't generate enough whiffs to face the Braves. So I'm going to pass on Jake Irvin today. I think we have some pitching options, and I don't think I have to play Jake Irvin. I do respect how well he's been pitching, and I think in certain matchups, like, you can play him. I just don't think this is one of them. Max Fried, 8,800 going up against Washington in a spot where you're really kind of chalking up a win. Should be pitching with a lead. 8,800 Max Fried against Washington, coming off of a complete game against your Cubbies, almost through a Maddox, 105 pitch complete game. What are we doing, Max Fried, today?
Yeah, it was a rough start to the season for Max Fried, but he's really been figuring out here lately. That leash has been incredible as well. At least 100 pitches in 4 of his last 5 starts. So Braves really leaning heavily on Max Fried. Solid matchup here against Washington. Not the best strikeout spot, but I don't think we need another 7-8 strikeouts from him in this spot. He should go pretty deep into this game. Against Washington. 8,800 is just too cheap for the talent level here. Glad to see Fried back on track. We often talk about how he's a better real life pitcher than DFS pitcher, but if they're going to discount him below 9K, I'm all aboard the Max Fried train today.
Yeah, 9Ks against the Cubbies last time out too. And I think the thing that you kind of mentioned with the pitch count, like we're so used to like Max Fried getting pulled at like 90 to 95 pitches. The fact that they keep letting him go over 100 pitches, like now we're talking like 7, 8, 9 innings. And like now we're talking about potentially having some upside, especially at this price point. So I'm in on Max Fried today. Like if you think about where Washington beats you, it's a lot of the lefties at the top half of the lineup. Abrams, Garcia, Rosario, Winker. He neutralizes lefties big time, and he's still generating like 68% ground balls against righties this year. So I'm out on the Washington bats, and I really like Max Fried today. I will say, like, if you were going to try to chase a home run, Nick Senzel is 3,700, should hit up towards the top of the order here. Plenty of power against left-handed pitching. He would be the home run chaser for me. If I like build some non-Max Fried teams, I'd be one-offing a little bit of Senzel.
Yeah, I don't mind that call. I'm totally with you that I'm definitely not stacking against Fried. We know he has elite ground ball ability. The strikeouts have been there recently as well. And all of Washington's best hitters are lefties. They did beat up Charlie Morton on Monday, but that's a much better matchup for him as Morton struggles with the lefties. Fried should be able to neutralize them. I don't have any interest in Washington bats here.
I will say, I think I'd take back my Senzel take. You want to know why?
You see some splits?
He's a massive ground ball hitter. Like yeah. I went back and I pulled up his stats from last year too to get a larger sample size. 157 at bats against lefties since the start of last year. 46% ground balls. Only hits the ball in the air 25% of the time. Like you can't do that against Max Fried. You have to be a 35 to 40% fly ball guy against a ground ball pitcher like Fried. So I think I'm even out on Senzel. Love his numbers against lefties, but like ground ball hitter against ground ball pitcher, you know what that generates, Keith? Ground balls.
Ground balls.
Yeah. Not hard math on that one.
Nope.
All right, let's talk about the Braves bats here. You know, chat saying, hey, if Parker can shut down the Braves, why not Irvin? Hey, I mean, fair point. What are your thoughts here on the Braves bats against Jake Irvin?
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell Parker's been really good this season as well. I was digging into him a little bit. Like, I don't know exactly how he's getting it done, but he keeps on doing it. So, and that's not to say Irvin hasn't been successful, but I'll bet on the Braves talent here. I'm interested in the stack for sure. Without Acuna, it's a little bit cheaper. Sean Murphy is still priced way down. If he gets back-to-back starts in his first couple back from the IL here, he's 3,500. Ozuna has been one of the best hitters in baseball. Matt Olson is really starting to heat up. I love Matt Olson in this spot. He's probably my favorite hitter, price considered at 5,300, a little bit cheaper than Ozuna, swings it from the left side. Michael Harris potentially grabbing the leadoff spot here with Acuna down could be really interesting at 4,500. If Darno is in there instead of Murphy, I'd have plenty of interest there. Kelnick is probably going to hit at the bottom of the order, but he's really cheap, helps you fit in the full stack. But yeah, I have interest in the Braves here.
Yeah. So I like the Braves a lot, and I'm with you. I really do think Michael Harris bats lead off against righties and Albies hits lead off against lefties. So Michael Harris is going to be a guy we play a lot down the stretch here with no Acuna. We should note that JP Martinez got called up. Maybe they give like Duvall a day and they get JP Martinez in the lineup. He's 2K. Lefty, he hit like 270. He's like kind of a journeyman lefty. Not like a huge power guy, but he gives you some stolen base upside. I think he has like I think I read 13 or 14 stolen bases in AAA this season. So if he cracks the lineup, you really don't need much from 2K. If like you get a walk and a stolen base out of a guy at 2K, like you're super happy. So if he cracks the lineup, he probably hits like 8th or 9th, but could be good in like a wraparound Braves stack. So Atlanta, a team I'm very interested in today against Jake Irvin. I don't think Jake Irvin's bad, but I do think he struggles with lefty power, and they have enough lefty power in this lineup for them to get Jake Irvin out, before the 6th. So very interested in the Braves on this one. Toronto at Chicago White Sox, 8.5 total in this game. Toronto is a 230. Wendell got released, I thought, right? Really quick, going back to the Braves, didn't Wendell get released?
I did not see that.
I have designated for assignment on Monday. I have this Twitter account that I have notifications on that like does all the MLB moves, and like it's how I kind of keep track of stuff sometimes. But yeah, Wendell designated for assignment. So Toronto, Chicago. Oh.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say he must have been the corresponding move to get Martinez up is they needed a roster spot. So Wendell got the boot.
See ya. He's hitting like 180 on the season. Bye. You can't hit 180 on the Braves unless you're Ozuna, and then you hit like 30 home runs with next. He hasn't stopped hitting home runs.
Nope.
8.5 total. Toronto 230 favorite. Gausman and Clevenger facing off in this one. Let's start here with Gausman, 8,500. Good matchup against the White Sox. All over the place this year. I mean, some good signs here recently, though. What are we doing with Clevenger against the White Sox here?
Gausman against the White Sox.
Gausman. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah.
I told pre-show that I am gassed. Like I was in Charlotte for the 600 this weekend. It was a long weekend. I was at the track really late last night. I traveled this morning. I am so gassed. So if I make mistakes more than usual, I apologize ahead of time. I already apologized to Keith. I told him that he's covering the whole show. But I'm just telling the listeners now, like if I make mistakes, I am sorry. I'm trying. I'm very tired. But let's talk Gausman, that guy that pitches for the Blue Jays against the White Sox. It would be interesting though if Clevenger was pitching against his own team.
It would be. Gausman has had an inconsistent season, but like I still believe he's that same elite guy. I don't know what his problem was. We talked about the velocity coming out of spring training. Seems like he's figured it out. 10 strikeouts against the Tigers in his last start, and one of the best possible matchups you can ask for here against the White Sox. I think we're getting a pretty big discount on him here at just 8,500 also. So very much like Max Fried, he's a huge favorite, has a really solid matchup. Just he's coming off a phenomenal start. I'm all aboard Gausman here in this spot also.
What's like really interesting about Gausman just in general is like the velocity is still spiking all over the place. Like it really hasn't gotten any better. Do you know, like last time out against Detroit, he threw fastball like 80% of the time? I don't know if it's like a Fangraphs error or whatnot, but he threw fastballs like 80%.
He's really been struggling with his splitter this season. So I don't know if he's just kind of trying to move away.
No, he didn't throw his slider at all. Like he just didn't throw his slider against Detroit. Threw his fastball and splitter. He threw, looking at Fangraphs, 83% fastballs, 16.7% splitters. He threw fastball 83% of the time and averaged 92 miles an hour. So I wonder if he was like messing with the velocity just in general because he threw it so much. Because like his velocity had been up. He averaged like 95 this 2 starts before that against Minnesota. It's so he's that guy that makes you pull your hair out as a sports analyst. Like, cause like looking at the analytics side of like Gausman realistically makes you pull your hair out. Cause like, the talent is there and that he has the ability to go out and dominate any start. And you're like, there's nothing that suggests that he shouldn't. Control and command on his splitter, like you said, and control and command on his slider. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to go out and throw 83% of the fastballs most of the time and succeed. I know you struck out 10. It was the Tigers. Let's not get ahead of ourselves there. But yeah, I mean, overall, the White Sox strike out less against right-handed pitching, but they're still one of the worst teams in baseball against righties. They have a 274 WOBA, which is last, and a 74 WRC plus. I mean, they just continue to struggle. And like the ceiling for the price is just too good. He put up 32 fantasy points last time out, 29 recently against Washington, 25 against the Dodgers. Like, his ceiling is too high for 8,500 against the White Sox. So very interested in Gaussman today. I mean, we're going to talk about like Cole Reagans. We're going to talk about like Peralta and Wheeler, but like the 8K range has some options today. Like, there's no doubt about it.
For sure.
And we have some bats to pay up for. So Clevinger, other side of this one. Hey, I got this one right. It's Clevinger against the Blue Jays. Any interest in Clevinger here?
He's really cheap, and the Blue Jays are absolutely gutless. Like, I played a ton of them on Monday, and they didn't do very much. I'm still not playing Mike Clevinger here. The Blue Jays just don't strike out very much. His pitch count has kind of been all over the place as well. He was up to 98 in his last one, but he's lived in the 70 range a couple of times. Like, it's just tough to figure him out. I still believe the Blue Jays are an above average offense. They don't strike out. I don't see the upside for Clevinger here.
Like, two of my favorite things to do is watch baseball. And then like one of my favorite things to do on Clevinger Day is just keep refreshing props to see like what his strikeout prop comes in at. It looks like DK had it at 4.5 and they've taken it off the board. I really hope it's 4.5 for what it's worth. But like, Toronto is not a strikeout team. If he comes in at 4.5, Clevinger's not a huge strikeout pitcher anymore. I like the under on 4.5 there because it looks like it was almost plus money. It was like minus 110. They took it off the board. It's not on the Hard Rock. I already looked. I'll be refreshing until I go to sleep and then looking in the morning. But yeah, I mean, no interest in Clevinger. As gutless, I don't disagree. They're very gutless, but as gutless as this team is, they don't strike out. So like, it's just not a good spot for Clevinger. He's cheap, sure, but I'm out. I have interest in the Toronto bats. I want to play the Blue Jays against Clevinger. He's really struggled with right-handed power. This lineup is just full of right-handed power. This is the spot where you expect the Blue Jays to score 8 runs by the 5th inning. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, this is the spot when you're looking at the matchup and you're going, this dude can't strike righties out. He has terrible command. He has a 370 ISO against righties. Like, this is the guy that you're just like, hey, you should crush him. You should. And I hate playing the Blue Jays, but I'm playing the Blue Jays, man. I don't know if like we're gonna see like a chalky stack today with the 10-game slate like this, where pitching should be kind of spread out, and I think bats are going to be spread out. So I'm not really concerned about them being like chalky. I'm going to play the Blue Jays today.
Yeah, I am too. They certainly should have done the same thing that you were describing on Monday against Nick Nastrini. They did not. I think he gave up 3 runs or something like that.
They're up there. They're up there with the Padres as far as like talent and bad. Like, they just don't show up, and the talent like is so frustrating because like there'll be days they put up like 15 runs and you're like, hey, we expect that, and then like days they just don't show up, and it's just like, hey, whatever.
Yeah, it happens, but you just got to keep playing them for those times that they do go off for double-digit runs. They just did it on Sunday. They were not on the slate. It was an island game before the main slate started, but they did it on Sunday. Jumped all over them on Monday. Were very disappointing against Nastrini, who just has no command, hasn't had much strikeout stuff, but very similar matchup here. Like, Clevinger's just, there's nothing to be afraid of here. I love the price tag for Bichette. He's really started to heat up. He was one of the guys that homered again on Monday. David Schneider homered as well. He's been awesome at the top of the order here recently. Danny Jansen has been just crushing baseballs here also. Like, Vlad, I don't even mind leaving Vlad out of my Blue Jay stack. Like, his ground balls are just a massive problem at this point. So I don't mind leaving Vlad out of the stack as the most expensive hitter, going to guys like Bichette, Jansen, even Varsho, and Schneider. Springer homered on Monday. Finally, he hadn't done anything in forever, but he finally got one as well. So fair prices on these Blue Jays across the board.
Clevinger in 33 batted ball events against righties this season has allowed 20% barrels.
Ooh, that's not
good. You want to have some fun.
It's not good.
Yeah, you want to have some fun and waste 5 minutes of your life. Go look on Baseball Savant and search Mike Clevinger, and you're going to be like, if the Blue Jays don't hit him, there's a problem. White Sox against Gausman. Anybody standing out to you here? The White Sox or the White Sox?
Yeah, no interest. I think Gausman's back on track, and when he's on track, he's one of the better pitchers in baseball. White Sox are one of the worst offenses in baseball. I'm not stacking them today.
Yeah, not stacking. Gavin Sheets at 3,300 in the outfield. I don't hate that as like a cheap one-off. I keep talking about this guy. Like, he has pop. I mean, he's just in the wrong offense. So him and the dude they got from Houston, Julks. I think you could one off either one of those guys, and I wouldn't be like opposed to it. But I'm probably not playing a lot of them. I like pointing out when I see guys that like have a little bit of upside in matchups. Gausman strikes out lefties at a lower rate. There's a lot of fastballs to lefties, so like kind of looking at how some of these guys perform against fastballs. Gavin Sheets has been really good against fastballs this year and last year. So Gavin Sheets is a guy I wouldn't be shocked if like Gausman gives up a run or two, and like Sheets is one of those runs. So Cubs, Brewers. I mean, 7.5 total in this game. The Brewers are a 146 favorite. Ben Brown against Freddie Peralta. No idea what to expect here from Ben Brown. They keep saying they want to stretch him out, and then they bring in a guy behind him. And last time out, they were going to bring a guy behind him, and he threw 66 pitches, faced 15 hitters, had a really good start, and that was against Atlanta. Like, you're the Cubs fan. Like, what are we doing with Ben Brown against the Brewers at 7,300?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben Brown's a really good pitcher. Whether he makes it as a starter, I think is still to be determined. He has 2 good breaking balls, but nothing really off speed. Like, he basically uses his curveball as like his change of pace pitch, and it's an elite curveball. It's phenomenal. I don't know if he has enough variance in his pitches to be a starting pitcher. He's been outstanding out of the bullpen. It's a tough matchup here against Milwaukee. I was all over Justin Steele. They've been struggling against lefties, Milwaukee has. But against righties, they've been one of the best offenses in baseball. So Brown's going to be on somewhat of a pitch count here. I wouldn't expect more than like 80 in this spot. The 8K range is so strong on the slate that I think I just try to get up there. There's one guy in the 6K range that I've got my eye on as well. I don't think we need Ben Brown on this slate. Very talented pitcher. I love his stuff. I think it will work very well out of the bullpen. Remains to be seen if he'll be able to be a starting pitcher, but love the talent. Not the right spot for him though.
Yeah, I mean, basically waiting for Wicks to get healthy to fill that like 4th, 5th spot in that rotation that they kind of need. So,
yep.
The pitch
or
count.
Kate Horton to get the promotion. Either one.
Yeah, patiently waiting, right?
Yep.
Like, at what point do you just say, "Hey, let's call him up"? I mean, like, I can't wait to like be able to talk about his slider. I don't know if you've like his slider is nasty.
Yep.
Like his. Don't worry, when Cade Horton gets called up, just make the note. Stevie's going to be talking about his slider a lot. I'm impressed. That's all I'm going to say. All right, and it takes a lot to impress me, especially when it comes to pitching. But his slider is impressive. Ben Brown. Final thoughts for me, anyway, is the pitch count is going to limit him at some point in this game enough where I don't want to pay 7,300 for him against the Brewers. Like, this is not an easy matchup. We say that, and he pitched really well against Atlanta. Freddie Peralta, other side of this game, all over the place, I think is the best way to put Freddie Peralta's season. And, like, nothing, like, jumping out to me when I dig into him. Like, his strikeout rate, still phenomenal. I mean, his fly ball rate is up a tick. His ground ball rate's down a tick. His barrel rate is up a tick. Like, but whiff rate, really in line with what we've seen. His swing and strike rate is down a little bit against righties. Like, not being able to attack righties as hard as he has the last few years has been the biggest, I think, issue for Peralta. Like, his strikeouts have gone up against lefties, but like 36% Ks against righties last year, 27% against righties this year. He was so dominant against righties where like he's getting hit now by righties. 10-5, we have some cheap pitching. The Cubs have some strikeouts. What are we doing with Peralta today?
Yeah, it's the price tag that's really tough because Gausman and Fried in the 8K range are so strong. Like, they have just as much upside as Freddie Peralta, in my opinion. If it was a different slate, I would love this spot for Freddie Peralta. I think he's a fantastic pitcher. Strikeouts are up over 30% on the season. And like you mentioned, the Cubs have been striking out a ton lately. Robert Gasser just got him for 7 strikeouts. Like, come on. It's not looking great for the Cubs from a strikeout perspective at this point. So I think there's definitely ceiling for Peralta to pay off that 10-5 price tag. It's just, I think it's a pretty strong pitching slate, and I'm not sure I'm going to get to him. In fact, I know I'm probably not going to get to him more than Fried and Gaussman both. There's a couple other pitchers in this 10K range as well that are really strong. So just not the slate where I need to go all in on Peralta here. The Cubs are still a powerful offense. They could absolutely put up a couple of runs here. On Peralta, he could also strike out 12 and go 7 shutout. So I'll play him a little bit for the upside, but he will not be one of my higher owned pitchers.
I mean, the ceiling is there. We know, like, the ceiling that this guy has is massive, and like the Cubs, they can strike out. He's been so inconsistent. Like you don't build like a cash game, or like, I don't even think you build like single entry tournament teams around him. Like I play a lot of single entry tournaments, and like I don't think he'd be my single entry tournament pitcher. Like if I'm running like a 20 entry max or like a 150, of course I'm playing Peralta. Like, he's one of a handful of guys that can go for like 40 plus fantasy points. So, yeah, I mean, overall, slightly interested in Peralta and large field stuff, out in the smaller stuff. We should, and shout out to Could Be Travis. He said he shipped the 88 box out with a single bullet for 10K. He said, thanks to TJ and Chief.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks to TJ and Chief for filling in for me yesterday. I really do appreciate that. I was sitting in the media center in the rain delay while they were recording. So not going to happen for me last night. So I'm glad they filled in for me. And hey, I'm glad it worked out for you. Could Be Travis. That's awesome.
Yeah, congrats, man.
Cubs bats. Peralta has been giving up the long ball a little bit. Is there anybody, like, we're not stacking against Peralta, or I'm not, but like, I don't mind chasing a home run or two here.
Yeah, I'm not stacking against Peralta here either. There's too much swing and miss. He has too good a strikeout stuff, but I certainly don't mind Christopher Morel as a one-off at 4,300. Continues to just smoke the ball and has been one of the most unlucky hitters in baseball this season. Just keep playing Chris Morel. His price tag is way too cheap. He has power and speed upside. Bellinger's back, and he's struggled a little bit off the IL after a hot start, but he's still totally fine at 4,800. Ian Happ is starting to come around. He homered twice the other day. He's only 3,900. If he gets on a hot streak, he can absolutely start hitting some balls out of the park. Swanson is still a little bit too cheap. So I like the Cubs prices overall here, but definitely not a stack for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me like last year, I would have said like, hey, play some power righties. But like this year, like the power righties have been getting to Peralta. I would have said don't play the power righties last year, and this year I'm saying, hey, take some shots on some of these power righties. So I love the Morel call, and like if for some reason Patrick Wisdom gets a start today, like I love his power. I love playing the guy. He has big power. They just probably won't play him, but that's fine. Morel, my favorite like one-off power bat in the spot. Love playing the Brewers. I think Ben Brown is really good. The thing is, like, who's coming in after him? I hate like bullpen type of games. If we kind of expect them to keep coming in with, I can't think of his name right now.
Wisniewski pitched today. So yeah, Hendricks is out there in the bullpen, and they did just get Drew Smiley back as well. So either one of those guys could give him some length out of the pen, but they did burn Wisniewski on Monday. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can get Brown out in the 4th because of his pitch count, then like, either one of those guys, like Drew Smiley or Hendricks, like both of those guys can give up runs in abundance. So like, I hate bullpen type of games, but I don't mind this spot for the Brewers. If you can get around Ben Brown early, and like, he just doesn't pitch like deep into the game. And like the thing about the Brewers is they're a patient offense, so they can run your pitch count up really, kind of fast. So I think it's a full stack for me, though. I don't know if this is a spot that I would say, hey, I'm going to play like a one-off Yelich. I think this is a full stack spot with the hopes that you're getting Kyle Hendricks out of the bullpen. But overall, they're not high up on my list. If I were going to play them, though, it would be a full stack.
Yeah, if Kyle Hendricks was starting this game, the Brewers would be the best stack on the board. So if he comes out of the pen and throws 3 or 4 innings like that, this is an ideal scenario. Like, Ben Brown has had his fair share of control problems in the past. So if he comes out and racks up his pitch count early, like we said, he probably only has 80 to deal with. And if he's struggling, it might be significantly less than that. Kyle Hendricks cannot stop stolen bases, and the Brewers run like crazy. So there's a ton of upside if it's Hendricks that's the long man out of the pen. I think that you can chase some power against Ben Brown too, but I'm with you. I think you just full stack him, hope that Brown loses his command and doesn't go past the third or fourth inning, and you get a long reliever that we can pick on a little bit as well for a couple innings.
Yeah, because I mean, whether it be Smiley or Hendricks, they're going to try to get 2 to 4 innings out of those guys. So that's just how the Cubs have been doing things. Hendricks is just this guy only has a job because of what he's done in the past for the Cubs. The only reason that he has a job anymore. Kansas City at Minnesota, 8 total. Our boy Cole Reagans against Woods Richardson. Let's go to Cole Reagans first. 10-2. We know the ceiling is there. The Twins are striking out a little less. Any interest here in Reagans?
I always have interest in Reagans every time he pitches. Minnesota's been a solid offense. There's still plenty of strikeouts in this Minnesota lineup. It's why I knew I wasn't going to have a ton of Freddie Peralta. I just want to play Reagans more than I want to play Peralta. They're both amazing pitchers. I believe in Reagans a little bit more. I think this is a really solid strikeout matchup for him. I don't think I'll have more Reagans than I will Fried and why am I losing Gaussman at this point? They're just too cheap. But it's similar to what I said with Peralta. I'm playing him for the upside. Like Reagans could absolutely go out here and strike out 10 against Minnesota. He's just more expensive than those other two guys. So I will have plenty of Reagans, more than Peralta, but probably not as much as the other two 8K guys.
Yeah, I mean, overall for me, I play a ceiling almost every time out. And I'm with you. I actually do like Reagans more than Peralta, but it's going to be hard for me, like in my single entry builds, like my main builds here, to get off of like the Fried Gaussman combo. Because I just think they're both $1,000 too cheap for their matchups today. And that just opens up so many bats. But like large field tournament stuff, this guy is dominant. Like when he is hitting his spots and he is pitching to his potential, he has the upside to go for 40. So Reagans is up on my list for sure today. Like I'm gonna have a tight pitching pool. Like when I was looking at this slate before we got going, because like I just know exactly what I want at pitching today. Like there's just no reason to not play some of these guys today. Woods Richardson on the other side of this game, like I watched the Washington start. Because like I'm waiting for the regression, like so I keep playing bats against him, and like I'm watching this dude pitch, going like losing my mind because like he's just so hittable. It's so frustrating because he's so hittable, and he pitched really good in the Washington game. Didn't strike anybody out because he really is not a great strikeout pitcher. And the dude's like cruising. He gets like one guy on base, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna get you." At 77 pitches with no runs allowed, 3 hits. Walked one hitter, and they're like, hey, we're going to get you out of this. There's no chance on this slate with the pitchers that we have on this slate that you could play Woods Richardson today because his ceiling, his upside is just so low. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. Kansas City's been really solid on offense. They did just lose Massey to the IL, but they still have plenty of potential in this offense. I'm not playing Woods Richardson.
Oh, does that mean we're going to get more Blanco? Oh, I hope Blanco plays more. Like, the dude has wheels. Like, he's not a huge power guy, but Blanco is a guy that'll run, and they'll let him run. So, if we start getting, like, Darian Blanco in the lineup more, we're going to be playing him, because if he gets on base, he runs. So, just throwing that part out there. Anyway, let's talk about these Kansas City bats. One of my favorite teams to play this year. The stolen base upside, the power upside is there. Like, just Witt. I mean, any slate, he's going to be in play. Then we got Pasquantino, just a fantastic hitter that's so underrated. Doesn't strike out, ton of power, very patient, good eye at the plate. Massey being out definitely hurts the overall stack. So maybe this is more of like a 3 or 4 man type of stack, but I'm going to definitely have exposure to the Royals today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The top three are great. Witt's awesome. Sal Perez and Vinny Pasquantino, definitely play those guys. I'd like the fullback as well, though, because you get cheap power in guys like MJ Melendez and Nelson Velasquez. There's a lot of swing and miss in their game, but they're also loaded with power. Nick Lofton is the guy they called up to replace Massey on the roster. We could see him grab the start here. Cheap second baseman with decent prospect, not elite by any means, but Hunter Renfroe is another guy that has a lot of pop for cheap. So I like playing the Royals as well. I think it's a great spot for him.
I was looking at the Nick Lofton call up, and it shocked me a little bit, but they don't really have anybody. A lot of their prospects, from what I was looking at, like AA type of level, they don't really have anybody else right now, like in their system. So I thought that was interesting when I was looking at the Royals just in general. A lot of their talent is up right now. I wouldn't be shocked, like, for them to make some moves this offseason to try to get some farm system guys. Just throwing that out there. I love that kind of stuff. So anyway, like Kansas City, let's talk Minnesota. Reagan's is really good. Minnesota is not a terrible offense by any means. They have some pop. I don't think I want to play them today. Reagan's is just not a guy, like, when he's off, like, it's still not like he's going to go out there and give up like 5 home runs. He's not allowed a multi-home run game this season. He allowed 7 earned runs against the Angels, I guess, a few starts ago, and he got beat up really bad by, was it Baltimore earlier in the season?
Baltimore got him.
I mean, he's not doing it by home runs. I don't know. I don't think I want to play Minnesota today.
Yeah, I don't either. Reagan just has the strikeout stuff where he can help himself out of jams, even if he doesn't have like his best stuff or his best control on a given day. He generally manages the damage pretty well. I think that start against the Angels and then the one against the Orioles are basically the only 2 times he's been blown up since he's been in Kansas City. So I don't like to stack against Reagan's at all. I definitely think you can chase a home run from him against him. Ryan Jeffers has been awesome this season. Buxton is still cheap for his talent level. Those would be the 2 I'd look to first. If you want something cheaper, maybe a guy like Jose Miranda.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a really good pitcher. Like, again, I don't disagree with Keith about like chasing a one-off home run. I just think there's better spots to do that today. Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to play a lot of Minnesota today. Just in general, like, there's no reason to play a lot of Minnesota outside of the fact that you're like, hey, I'm just gonna play the game theory. Like, I was trying to think it out, but yeah. Anyway,
D. Johnson in the chat says Cole Reagans is elite. Yes, we agree.
You're talking to the president and vice president of the Cole Reagans club. Like, Keith and I have been on this since like last year. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I bet this dude's strikeout prop. Like, it's just been like a consistent, like, every start bet a strikeout prop. All right, Arizona at Texas. No total in this game. Like, DK has Dane Dunning listed. MLB has nobody listed for them, and like the sports books don't have anybody listed for Texas. So I'm interested to see if it actually is going to be Dunning or not. We got Fott on the other side of this game. There you go, Dean. I'll say it the right way, even though I like saying it the other way because it's funnier. Anyway, let's talk Fott first. Any interest here going up against Texas at 7,600?
On a different slate, I might have interest in taking some shots, but the 8K range just a little bit more there's so much upside there. It's a difficult matchup against Texas. Fott is a guy that I believe in. He has been better than his top line numbers show this season. His strikeouts are up a little bit. His xERA is down at 3, whereas his actual ERA is up just barely over 4. So he's been a little bit unlucky. He also has an 18% strikeout rate, but he has a 10.5% swinging strike rate. So he's been unlucky with strikeouts. He's been unlucky with run prevention. He's better than what his results show this season. But I don't think this is a slate to play him. Hopefully the price stays in this range and he has a better matchup next time out, and I'd be all about it, but not today.
He's been really good.
Yes.
Like, there's no denying like how good he has been. The thing that is interesting to me is ownership. Like if he is going to be 5 to 8% owned here, like I think you could play a little thought. Like he's pitched 6 innings in 5 straight games, and 7 of his last 8 games. Like he's pitched good. Texas is scary, but when they're off, they're off. Like I don't hate it. I really don't hate the idea in like a 150 build getting a little exposure if he's going to be low. Like if you tell me he's going to be like 15%, I think there's better options just to pay up and play some of these guys. If it is Dane Dunning on the other side, came back after being on the IL. 75 pitches was his limit through 74. He didn't pitch terrible. I think who did he give it up to? Real Muto, I think, was who he gave the home run up to. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily don't mind picking on Arizona. I just don't know if I want to play Dane Dunning until I see him like have a dominant performance.
Yeah, I mean, the strikeout rate has been way up for Dane Dunning this season, so it's possible that he's taking a bit of a step forward this season. Arizona doesn't strike out very much, though, so the upside, I think, in this spot is a little bit limited, especially if the pitch count isn't all the way back to where he can throw 95 pitches. Like I would expect him to be in the 85 to 90 range in this spot, which for 7,100 is fine, but I would want a better strikeout matchup for him than Arizona. I think I'll sit it out if it's Dunning today.
Yeah, I think it's kind of where I'm at. Like Dunning, just in general, I feel like it was really good to see his fastball velocity up in the return. Used a lot of cutters, used a lot of sliders, that's why he's pitching so well, right? Like he has 3 or 4 really good pitches. He throws 5, I think. But he has 3 or 4 really good pitches, and he's just keeping hitters off balance. And you see that in some of the advanced stats, like which makes a ton of sense too. But I think overall, though, I'm probably going to pass and just kind of because it was arm too. And like, I don't know. I want to see a dominant performance anytime I see like an arm injury. So let's talk Arizona bats. Carroll's 4,400. I know he's been just not great to start the year. He's been hitting a little bit better over the last couple weeks. Like this price tag is just jumping out to me today. Like, and like Easy just said it in chat too. Like he's just too cheap. Like I think this is just one of those spots, Keith, where like you're going to end up just playing the talent more than looking at his stats for the season.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it with like a guy like Jose Rodriguez as well. Like these are just uber talented young guys who are going to figure it out eventually. Carroll has that shoulder thing that could be holding him back. He's obviously trying to play through it, but like you said, at least the hits are starting to come now. We haven't seen any type of power from him whatsoever, but at least he's starting to rack up base hits. So I'm willing to jump on him at 4,400. Dunning struggles with lefties as well, so good spot for Corbin Carroll. I like Jock Peterson a ton. I don't know that I'm necessarily stacking Arizona. I certainly think that you can because Dunning does have some control issues at times, but I don't hate hunting power against him either. And Carroll is certainly fine. Peterson is my favorite guy to do that with if I'm just looking for a one-off homer. But the stack is totally fine too. You have guys like Marte and Walker with plenty of upside. Gurriel's been solid. So I don't hate the Arizona stack. Not one of my primary stacks today, but I will certainly have some exposure.
Texas a bottom 5 bullpen in general too. So like you're getting, if Dunning's not throwing 90 pitches and if we do our 12 to 15 pitch increase, he's probably really close to 90 pitches here, but like I think his ceiling is probably like 95. And I think like I would assume that like we project him around like the 86 to 88 pitch mark, and I think that's really close to what it'd be. So I mean, you're potentially only getting him for like 4 or 5, and then you're getting the bullpen. Like they've been bottom 5 almost all year, and they haven't gotten much better. I think they still have I don't love this stat, but I think they still have the worst ERA in baseball. The bullpen does. I like Arizona lefties. I don't mind playing the righties either, just because I mean they're good righties. It's not like these righties are bad. Like Christian Walker has upside, Gurriel has upside, so I don't mind playing the righties in stacks either. And Arizona, I think, is a team you could stack today. I also think like Texas is a team you could stack. Like we talked about, Fott and like how he can struggle at times. So like if you're not getting a good outing from him, this is a stack that's, I mean, this team, they can score in bunches. So I don't mind stacking against him here with Texas. We're going to talk about a couple other spots where like bats are going to be primo. And like the Yankees against Griffin Canning is a great spot. We're going to talk about Cleveland against Feltner in the next game. I think Texas is a team that has the same type of ceiling as some of those teams with the power in this lineup.
Yeah, Fott's been really good, but he certainly is not immune to getting beat up by a really good offense here. Lefties are my first look. Seager looks like a fantastic one-off if he's going to be low owned today. I really like the price tags on Evan Carter and Nate Lowe as well. I won't have a ton of full stacks, but I will have a little bit of that 3-man lefty stack there.
I got a fun one for you, just because we just talked about him. If salary was an issue, would you play Witt or Seager today?
I would go Witt first, but Seager is right there.
Yeah, he's like $1,000 cheaper. I mean, you factor in the price and it's different, but I don't know. Like many times I'd take Witt, like anybody over Witt. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz maybe a little bit or Mookie, but I mean, Witt's just he is a phenomenal talent. I will say, like Gunnar Henderson, like dude is really good. Like our next generation of like shortstops in the majors, man. They like shortstop is the new first base for
it's
DFS.
like the premium fantasy position. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah. All right, Cleveland at Colorado, 10 total. Cleveland is a 142 favorite. McKenzie and Feltner facing off here. Second day in Coors, good weather. Again, it looks like we're gonna have good weather again. Any interest here in McKenzie?
I wish he was more expensive so I didn't have to think about it. I don't hate the idea of throwing a couple tournament darts at $7K. Tristan McKenzie, he's been a lot better since his first 3 starts of the season. His strikeout rate for the year is 20%, but it's been almost 25% since after his first 3 starts, where he had like an 8% strikeout rate. The strikeouts have been up a little bit. Colorado is still terrible. It's Coors. I don't think you have to do it today, but I don't think it's a crazy idea to play a little bit of Tristan McKenzie.
I'll probably pass. I love playing pitchers against the Rockies. I don't think Tristan McKenzie is healthy. Like, and it's not even thinking. We know he's not healthy. Yeah, we know
he has a tear in his UCL. Like, you need a UCL to throw a baseball, and his is torn. Yeah. But he's been better recently. That's all I was just saying. Like, he's been better than his season numbers over his last 6 starts or so.
No, and like if this game was in Cleveland, I'd probably maybe hang in there, Stevie. I'm fine, man. I'm muting my mic when I'm coughing and stuff. I'm good. My water is out. That's the worst part about right now is like my water ran out, but we're crushing some ice. Feltner, he's awful. I know he pitched well against Oakland last time out, and congrats to anybody that played him. I don't know if I played him. I don't remember, but I probably didn't because he's awful. He's not a good pitcher. Below average strikeout pitcher against a below. Don't play Feltner.
Yeah, I'm not playing Feltner. This Cleveland offense is sneaky good. They've been outstanding.
They're really good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about them. Obviously, like Jose Ramirez is probably the top play on the slate. Like overall, like he's like the first guy I think like in your single entry build you're getting in your builds today. Obviously, have a ton of interest in like both nailers, Josh and Bo. I mean, Brennan, if Manzardo's in there today, he's a really interesting like stack piece to get off of Naylor a little bit and make your Cleveland stacks different. I mean, I like Naylor more, but like Manzardo has a little bit of pop, and he should start this game. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I want Cleveland. I want Cleveland a lot.
Yeah, they're the top stack of the day. Are they going to be low enough owned where I want to go way over the field? That's still to be determined. But like just from a raw point standpoint, they're the top stack of the day. Jose Ramirez is the top hitter of the day. I love the Manzardo call at 3K. Like first base, we just talked like it's not as strong as of a position as it used to be. So paying down at first is totally viable. Manzardo is a talented hitter. I like that call a ton. Will Brennan has a very fair price tag at 4,200. And then spending up for guys like Naylor and Jimenez is not crazy either, especially in Coors Field. Like they have a ton of upside. David Fry has been absolutely incredible. He's been better against lefties, but he's still hitting righties too. So like you look at a 5K price tag on David Fry and it's like, oh, wow, I don't know if I can do that. I think you can, especially in Coors here. So if he's in the lineup, I have interest there as well.
It'd be silly not to play him every day. The way that he's been hitting,
he's been awesome.
Silly. Yep. Yeah, I mean, overall, for the Guardians, just a ton of interest. Depending on like who's in, who's out, you're gonna have a little bit of cheap place, but like I think they price Cleveland up enough that they're not like uber chalk. Feltner's a good matchup for this team. They're gonna hit him hard.
Yeah, I agree.
Rockies other side here. I know like the Rockies a lot today. And it pains me to say that, but like, man, I watched Tristan McKenzie's last start and the ball was just jumping off the bat. I think the Mets had like 2 or 3 home runs against them in that start, but like when Jeff McNeil is taking you deep, you have to have a lot of interest in a guy like Ryan McMahon.
Yeah, Ryan McMahon looks really good. We know McKenzie's going to give up a ton of fly balls, and fly balls just travel further in Coors Field. That's facts. I don't even mind Blackman at 4,400. Tovar has been solid this season at 4,600. Chris Bryant has not been. Probably don't play him. I think it's done for him, unfortunately.
I just don't think he's been healthy for the last like 2.5 years.
Yeah, he hasn't been right since that shoulder injury back with the Cubs. Like it was a horrible signing by the Rockies. It was a great move by the Cubs to let him go, even though he won an MVP and a World Series for him. Pains me to say it as a Cubs fan because I'll always hold a special place in my heart for Chris Bryant, but just not happening for him anymore. I'm with you on the Rockies. I think McKenzie's been better than his numbers say, but he's still a fly ball pitcher in Coors Field. You can absolutely take shots on the Rockies.
Yeah, I mean, even if we look at like McKenzie's last 30 days, like he's been better, no doubt. But the command is still the biggest problem with him. Like he throws too many pitches down the middle of the plate. Like at the end of the day, there was a pitcher, Michael Pineda. Michael Pineda was the other guy that did this all the time. Yeah. He had good stats, and he just randomly would throw pitches down the middle, and like he would give up home runs, and you'd be like, why? Like you'd watch him pitch, and you'd be like, oh man, this guy's dealing. And then all of a sudden, he'd miss a pitch, and it'd be right down the middle of the plate, and you'd be like, fastball down the middle. I can't do that in the majors against anybody. So. My favorite thing here about McMahon is he gives you like instant leverage off of Ramirez in the same game. Both third basemen, both good talented hitters. Ramirez is one of the best hitters in baseball. Don't get me wrong. He's the top play. We said that. I think McMahon's a really great leverage play in the same spot. Good pivot spot. Like you mentioned, Blackman, I like him. It'd be really interesting to see what the lineup is overall today for the Rockies. Like they don't have the ability to get a ton of lefties in this lineup, which kind of stinks because like you really want to attack him with lefties. I really want Jake Cave to play today. I'm just going to say that. 3K Jake Cave against Tristan McKenzie getting a meatball down the middle. It's going to be flying high in Coors. So just throwing that out there. All right, moving on. We don't have to spend a ton of time on that one. We all know it's a good spot. Yankees and Angels, 8.5 total. The Yankees are a 185 favorite here. Cortez and Canning facing off against each other. My first question is, like, are the Yankees too much of a favorite in this game? Because the Angels are actually kind of sneaky good against lefties. Nestor Cortez has been pitching a lot better here over the last month and a half. What are we doing with him today against the Angels?
Yeah, it's not the slate for me. Like he's been fine. The strikeouts have been down a little bit, but they've been okay here recently. Almost 24% on the season. Like Nestor's a good pitcher. I just don't think it's the slate. There's options below him and above him that I definitely prefer. If he's low owned, I'll have a little bit. I wouldn't kick him out of the pool by any means. I think it's a fine spot for him. I think the price tag is fair. I just think there's a couple of guys that are underpriced below him, and there's a couple of guys above him that have massive ceiling. So I'm probably mostly out on Cortez unless he comes in like 5% owned.
Yeah, Richie in chat says, love the Angels. Me and you are on the same page today, Richie. I mean, if we look at like active roster, right? the active roster for the Angels, they're first in WRC plus against left-handed pitching this season. We're taking Rendon, Trout, Drury out of that because active guys take out the IL. So that's factoring out the best hitter in this team, Mike Trout. They have been stellar against left-handed pitching this season. And again, I believe in Cortez's talent overall. This is a terrible spot for him to be 9,500 with all the pitching that we have below and above him. There's just no way I'm playing him today. And we'll talk about the Angels bats in a minute, but yeah, no chance I'm playing him and no chance I'm playing Griffin Canning. Something's going on with this dude. He just doesn't look right. His advanced metrics are awful. The command is just the leading factor of his biggest struggles here. No chance I'm playing him today against the Yankees.
Yeah, tough spot against the Yankees. Even if he was right, I wouldn't have interest in him in this spot. The Yankees have just been too good.
It's weird because we used to attack the Yankees because of the strikeouts, but they're
they don't strike out anymore.
They don't strike out anymore. It's when Stanton, you always count on him for a strikeout or two, but dude is just hitting the ball so hard that any kind of contact he's making has a chance to go over the fence. It's just wild. Yankees bats, the Yankees today, Keith. I think this is going to be a high-scoring baseball game. What are your thoughts here on the Yankees bats?
I love the Yankees. They're my favorite pivot off of Coors Field. Canning has not been right. This Yankees offense is just adding high contact guys like Soto and Verdugo in between massive power guys like Judge and Stanton. It's a really difficult lineup to deal with. And guys like Rizzo and Torres haven't even been that good this season. So there's potential for this lineup to get even better. It's just scary what they're rolling out there. Volpe's been leading off here recently, so he's absolutely fine to play in front of this just murderer's row of hitters behind him. Judge has been on an absolute tear. He's my favorite hitter on the slate right behind Jose Ramirez. Love this spot for Aaron Judge. Stanton has big time power. He's still below 5K. Round out the stack with a cheap guy. Gleyber Torres is 3,800. I know he's been bad, but that's a fair price to take some shots on a guy with as much talent as Torres has. Love the Yankees in this spot.
He's been a lot better recently, though. He's been hitting a lot more. He has more home runs in the last 10 days than he has all season. So love the Aaron Judge call. When this guy is hitting the ball the way that he's hitting the ball right now, it's really hard to not have a lot of interest in him. So yeah, I mean, Yeezy said it in chat. I see ownership spread out on this slate. That's what I was saying, 20, 30 minutes ago. Is just I'm not overly concerned about ownership on this slate. I really think it's just a slate where you play what you want to play and be done with it. So I love the Yankees. I'm with you. I think this is a top end stack today. Good pivot off of Coors, good pivot off of Atlanta, a team we talked about a long time ago against Jake Irvin. I like the Angels a lot today, Keith. I'll let you go first on this one because I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. But I like the Angels a lot today.
I'm not going to have as much enthusiasm as you. I can tell.
That's fine.
I think Nestor Cortez is a really good pitcher. I get what you're saying against lefties. The Angels have been much better than they have been against righties. I think Joe Adell is an awesome one-off at 3,700. Huge power guy. Neto has been really good against lefties. He is cheap as well. I don't know that I'm buying what Kevin Pillar is doing. Rengifo's been good this season. Just now that price tag is up to 4,600. It's tough. Taylor Ward is probably fine for the price, but again, just feels a little bit overpriced against Cortez. I think it's my respect for Cortez that has me not loving the full stack. I definitely like a couple of guys like Adell, Neto, Ohapi even as one-offs. I don't know if I want to stack against Nestor is my only problem.
Yeah. Okay, listen, I believe in Cortez long-term, but this dude gives up a ton of fly balls and he gives up a ton of hard contact. Ton of fly balls and a ton of hard contact against righties this season. And you get a team I'm just going to read off a few numbers here. Pilar, I'm with you. It reminds me of that song, I found love in a hopeless place or whatever that song is. He's come to LA and he's found new life, but he has a 260 ISO and a 460 WOBA against lefties this year. Joe Adell, one of my favorite hitters on the entire slate, 530 ISO against lefties this year in 36 at bats. Small sample size, but Taylor Ward, great against lefties. Rengifo, like you said, great against lefties. Nato, great against lefties this year. Again, like their active roster leads baseball in WRC plus against lefties. They're facing a pitcher that struggles with right-handed power and home runs. I mean, if this game was in Yankee Stadium, the Angels might be like the top stack on the slate for me for the home run. So I'm going to be playing the Angels today. I'm going to be playing a lot of the Angels today. It sounds so weird, like coming off the tongue, because I'm with you. Like overall, like I'm with you. I like Cortez as a pitcher in the long term. So like stacking against him is not something I like to do. But man, this is the spot I feel like that could be really sneaky good. All right, moving on. Houston at Seattle, 7.5 total in this game. Seattle slight 130 favorite. We got Hunter Brown going up against Luis Castillo. Any interest here in Hunter Brown?
It's been a rough season for Hunter Brown. We have picked on the Mariners for strikeouts all season long, though. I think I prefer the other 6K guy that we're going to talk about. It's like if I'm going down here, I don't hate the idea of Brown. Matt Waldron's been sneaky good this season, and I think I'd play Waldron over Hunter Brown, and I don't think I need more than one 6K pitcher. Like both these guys should be pretty low owned because of the strength of that 8K range that we've talked about. There's a couple of 10K pitchers to pay up for upside. I don't see myself going down here a ton, and I prefer another guy on the slate over Hunter Brown. So while I think it's a nice upside spot for him, he's been rough this season. He's walked too many guys this season. The strikeouts haven't been as good as we want them to be. I think I'm going to sit out Hunter Brown again. I believe in the talent. He's going to turn it around eventually, and we're going to play him at this price. It's not today for me anyway.
I don't think he's a bad play by like any means. I don't think that like Hunter Brown's a bad play. And it's more of just like Seattle strikes out at a huge clip. A guy that's been struggling with strikeouts, like this could be a spot he kind of gets right. So I don't hate Hunter Brown. I want to see his ownership. Like he's the one guy that I think could push some ownership that's uncomfortable today because he's cheap. He's facing Seattle. It's in Seattle. Like, I think Hunter Brown's ownership might get a little uncomfortable. And like, dude scored over 20 one time this year. Like one time he has scored over 20, and historic stats are going to love this guy. Like projection models are going to love this guy because of his strikeout ability from last year. But I'm on the fence. I don't think he's a bad play. Ownership has me on the fence because I do feel like he's the potential like one guy that's going to be chalky. And I'm with you. I think Waldron is a really good pivot off of Hunter Brown. That knuckle is knuckler. But yeah, I mean, overall, in like a 20-incher max, I'd probably get some exposure to Brown. It's Seattle. In a single entry, again, I'm just going to keep saying this. Like in a single entry tournament for me today, I am not likely getting off of Fried and Gaussman if the weather is okay in those two games. Other side, Luis Castillo really has not been good. I mean, he's had like stretches where he's been good this year, but like overall he's been struggling. Like he can turn it up against anybody, but I'm not paying 9,200 for the inconsistency when we have so many pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, it's too strong of a pitching slate. There's two pitchers below him that I like more. There's two pitchers above him that I like more. I don't love playing pitchers in DFS against Houston ever. So even if he was in top form, I still would have a problem with Luis Castillo. Against Houston, I don't see it here. I think he's going to figure it out and he's going to be fine down the stretch, but not today for me.
Houston bats. I respect Castillo, I think, enough to not like go full on stack here. Like, obviously, they have a lot of upside. Castillo gives up home runs. I think I chase the power with Houston today. Obviously, Kyle Tucker is someone that's at the top of that list. 18 home runs on the season. Yordan Alvarez has a ton of home run upside and power. I know he's not doing it a ton this year, but like, I think Tucker is a great, like, expensive leverage, like, low-owned home run play today.
Yeah, I don't mind chasing home runs. Like, you just hope you get the 2 home run game from Tucker and Alvarez. Play them as one-offs. There's no chance I'm stacking here against Castillo. I don't see him getting blown up. So, yeah, I think it's just Tucker and Alvarez as one-offs for me.
All right, Seattle. Man, I have stacked against Hunter Brown a lot this year. No one's playing in Seattle today, and he's going to have ownership. Like, do we dare play the game theory of like taking some Seattle bats against him? Like, not in like a single entry format, but like in large field stuff where it's so top heavy. Like, do we get some like Seattle stacks, like some 3 or 4 man stacks today?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think especially the 3-man is totally fine because I'm not sure they have a ton of upside. Like Brown should be able to hold them down well enough, but I think he could walk a couple of guys and give up some homers. Like definitely, Julio is really starting to figure it out here. He's only 5K. I like that price tag for him. We know he has massive upside. 2 home runs in his last 3 games, so I definitely like Julio in the spot. Josh Rojas has been okay. Hasn't really shown a ton of power this season, but he's been hitting near the top of the order. JP Crawford is back as well. 3,300 for him. There's a couple of cheap lefties in there that you could pair with Julio. Cal Raleigh is another one that I never mind playing him. Luke Raley is cheap. Like outside of Julio, these guys are really cheap. So I think it's a 3-man for me just because Brown's good enough to hold him down, but I certainly will have some exposure to the Mariners.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good game theory spot. Like, I think you can make a nice little 3-man and or even like a 4-man, like 4-4 builds or something that I feel like are very underrated roster construction. And we do it on FanDuel a lot, but not a lot of people do it on DK as much as they should. Miami at San Diego, 7.5 total pick'em game. Luzardo and Waldron facing off against each other here. Jesus Luzardo, dude, I love this guy. Like he looks healthy, and I am not hesitant at all to play Jesus Luzardo against San Diego at this price point. Like we talked about, like Fried and Gausman being underpriced. When Jesus Luzardo is healthy, like he shouldn't be 8K, and I mean he has looked really good in his last few starts from coming back from the IL.
Yeah, I will agree with you that he's definitely a more talented pitcher than his 8K price tag. The Padres just don't strike out a ton. So I like it's good that he's this
use rationale.
No, but at this price, I think there is still like I don't think it's a spot where he can go up and strike out 10, but he could probably strike out 6, and that might be enough at 8K. There is upside around him with Fried and Gausman. He's a little bit cheaper than those guys, so you don't need quite as much from him. But like I'm not scared of the San Diego offense necessarily, but they do make a ton of contact. So I have concerns about the Luzardo upside. That's why I prefer Fried and Gausman, even at probably higher ownership. But Luzardo is a very talented guy. He should not be 8K. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like 100 pitches last time out is a super positive sign that Luzardo is good to go. And like he's just advanced stats wise, he's looked really sharp since coming back. The velocity and the fastball has been really good, and the pitches are moving like they should. He was definitely not 100% to start the year. So, yeah, I mean, the strikeouts are the concern. He had 4 strikeouts against Milwaukee last time out and scored 28 fantasy points. So, like, the upside is still there at 8K. How is Luzardo away from Miami? I don't think San Diego is a huge ballpark downgrade. Like, he's definitely better at home because, I mean, Miami is one of the best pitchers' ballparks in baseball. But San Diego is a good pitcher's ballpark, too. So, I'm not really concerned about his home road splits in this spot. Way better at home this year. But, I mean, his 2 away games were Yankee Stadium and Wrigley. So, I mean, those aren't good comps. Waldron, I know you and I both like him from our conversation. I mean, just cheap, right? Like, the strikeout upside concerns me a little bit, but, like, Miami is not great. Waldron can get the knuckleball going, can limit the damage, and there's strikeouts in this lineup. The thing that I like about picking on Miami with the guy like Waldron is like they free swing a lot. They swing and miss a lot. They don't walk a lot. That could benefit a guy like him who tends to like walking 2 or 3 batters a pitching slate.
Yeah, I mean he's 6,200 and he has an average strikeout rate at 23.5%. Like I was a little bit surprised to see that strikeout rate when digging in and doing the research. But like this Miami offense is not good. they traded away Luis Ariz. There's that like that's going to put another higher strikeout bat in there. They still don't strike out a ton, to your point, but I don't need a ton of strikeouts from Waldron. He's going to have the pitch count to work deep enough into this game, and there's not a ton of power risk on the other side. So I think he can go like 6 innings in this spot. Even if he only ends up with like 4 strikeouts in 6 innings, like that's enough for 6,200. I think he's safer than Ben Brown, or than Hunter Brown, rather, in the same price range. So like, I don't know, you're not paying a 6K pitcher for safety. But I feel like Waldron's just in a really good spot here against a Miami offense that isn't going to pose a huge threat on the other side.
I like that he's just embracing the knuckleball, right? Because like last season, he threw the knuckleball 26% of the time, and he tried to throw like sinkers and fastballs to generate like more ground balls and stuff. It didn't work. This year, he's throwing his knuckleball 35% of the time, almost 36% of the time. And he has like a 29% whiff rate on it. Like when you're looking at like his strikeout numbers, like they're all coming from the knuckleball, where he was like trying to spread out his strikeout stuff last year. So like he's just embracing it. That's what he needs to do. That's where he's going to benefit. He does a great job limiting barrels. His barrels are way down, and I feel like that's a lot to do with like throwing more knuckleballs. For like getting barrels and like throwing sweepers, sinkers, and knuckleballs, like that's going to keep guys, on the top of the baseball, and that's what you want, ground balls. So, Waldron, I think, is great. Miami bats. I mean, you play Jazz against anybody. I feel like he's just an uber talented hitter. He's just on the wrong offense. He's on the wrong team. De La Cruz has been good this year. Those would be the 2 guys that I think I'd target here, but I'm not going out of my way to play the Marlins today.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, there's just not a ton of talent in this offense. Certainly play Jazz. De La Cruz has been good, especially for his price tag. He's still 3,700. Even Jazz, I think, is a little bit underpriced. So I don't mind those 2 guys, but I definitely like the Waldron side of this better. Jake Berger is just recently back as well. He hasn't been very good this season. Power's been down a little bit, and he's been striking out too much as usual, but he still has a bunch of power in there. So I don't hate that as a cheap power play, but definitely no stacks for me.
Any interest in the San Diego bats?
Not really. I think Luzardo's a really good pitcher. Machado has been just a disaster this season. I don't really feel like I need to pick on Luzardo on a 10-game slate, to be honest. Like you said, it's not even really that a ballpark downgrade. San Diego's a very fine pitcher's park. So I like Luzardo to limit the runs here. It's just the strikeouts that I have an issue with. And like not striking out doesn't mean that San Diego is going to score a bunch of runs in this spot.
All right, we finish out the slate with Philadelphia at San Francisco. No total in this game. It sounds like Spencer Howard will get the call up here and pitch, from everything I've read. And Zach Wheeler is on the hill for Philly. Zach Wheeler is good. He's talented. He's 11K. I think there's guys with similar ceilings to Zach Wheeler for $3,000 less. I like him. I like the spot. I will play some of him. I just don't think he's like a guy you have to pay up for on the slate. Like, there's a lot of slates where like, gosh, give me a Zach Wheeler at 11K. I just don't think today is one of those days.
I think you said something right there that I think there's as much upside from guys that are $3,000 less. Like that is exactly it. I think that even the guys that are 800 less, like I think Reagan's has more upside than Wheeler. I will say it's a massive ballpark upgrade for him going from Citizens Bank in Philly out to San Francisco. And Oracle Park is a massive upgrade for pitchers, but he's 11K. And San Francisco doesn't strike out all that much either. They've been middle of the road, 21% strikeout rate on the season. Wheeler is up around 28%, but it's not like he's an elite strikeout guy over 30% or anything this season. I think he's an elite pitcher. I don't know if he's an elite strikeout pitcher at this point in his career. And like San Francisco is a high contact offense. So I'm struggling to find the upside at 11K, especially given the context of the slate where I think there's plenty of upside amongst the pitchers in like the 8K range.
Spencer Howard, other side here. I mean, a guy that at one time was like a huge prospect. I mean, this guy, was it like 3 years ago?
Yeah,
And
drafted by Philly, was part of a huge trade. I forget who Philly traded him for, to the Rangers, I think it was.
I think it was the Rangers too. I know he's been in a couple systems since then. Like, a lot of injuries for Spencer Howard. Yeah, I mean, overall, looking at Spencer Howard's AAA numbers this year, and just kind of what we have to go off of, 39 innings, and he's sitting at 57 strikeouts. He has a 12.93 K per nine. We've seen this before in AAA for him. Like, he just hasn't been able to translate that into the majors. I mean, that's been the biggest thing for him. I think it's hilarious that they're calling him up to face Philly. It was Texas. I don't remember who the trade was, but it was Texas. What are we doing with him at 6K today? Like, gosh, when he is healthy, he has an electric slider and changeup combo. I just don't know. Like, we've seen this so many times from him where he like dominates AAA, gets called up to the majors, gets shelled. He's 6K. The price tag's nice. Tough matchup against Philly. Maybe that just keeps me off of him because we do have like Waldron and Brown in this range. Anyway.
Yeah, like I was looking at the AAA numbers too, and it's a 32% strikeout rate in AAA is nothing to sneeze at. But like you said, we've seen him do it before, and then he comes up and he can't strike anybody out in the majors. So tough matchup against Philly. We love the ballpark for pitching, but I don't think it's the spot. I would play Waldron ahead of him for sure. I think I would play Hunter Brown ahead of him as well. If it was a better matchup, maybe I would take some shots that he's finally figured it out. It's not like he's young anymore. He's 27 at this point, I think. So he's not even a prospect anymore. He's bounced around enough where that like upside has kind of gone by the wayside. And at this point, he's more of a journeyman veteran type who's had a couple of cracks at the majors. Maybe he's healthy now, and this is the time he's finally figured it out. But I don't think so. I don't think I'll take shots on it today.
I want him to be right. I really do. You always want like these guys that have the prospects of being like somebody huge that like to pan out, but I mean, not all of them do. Listen, as a baseball player for a long time, I always want like these guys to work out because I know how hard it is to get there. Yeah, I was looking at like it was a prospect trade.
Kyle Gibson is who he was traded for. Was the main veteran going back to the Phillies.
Right.
Yeah. I just looked that up too. I was curious.
It was driving me crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I was sitting over here driving me crazy. I don't think I play Howard today. I'm very intrigued to watch this game. I will say that. Like, I'm very intrigued to see, is he throwing 95? Is the slider working? Like, does the changeup look effective? Like, I believe there's talent there, and if he's healthy, and looking at his AAA numbers again, like you're like, hey, here he comes, and Keith, had we looked at this and he was a 23-year-old, 24-year-old prospect, and we hadn't seen him in the majors yet, we'd be super excited to play him. Yep. Yeah, because like
totally agree.
That high of a strikeout rate in AAA is no joke, and we've seen this already from this guy. So we'll see what he does. Maybe it's an easier matchup. I'd have more interest too, but yeah, I'm not playing him against this team. Any Philly bats here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love their pricing with the huge ballpark downgrade, but we have no idea what Spencer Howard's going to be. I don't know what his leash is going to be, but Philly is priced up and they're getting a huge ballpark downgrade. We've already talked about several offenses that are in great spots today. Like, I don't see myself chasing a ton of Philly exposure. Just because they're so expensive is the main thing. And then you take their ballpark advantage at home away from them and put them in one of the best pitchers parks in baseball. It's tough to pay these prices. Even if Howard comes up and isn't right, I still don't know how much exposure I want to Philly.
This could be a good ballpark for Howard because, like, looking back at some of his like numbers from like 2020, 2021, like stuff, he struggled home runs, and this could be a good ballpark upgrade for him just in general. If you want to chase some home runs here, they're expensive home runs to chase, but I mean, this guy did have a home run problem every time he's ever been called up. So maybe you look at like a Marsh at like 4,400 instead of going up to like a Schwarber or Harper because of the ballpark. But let's just be honest for a second too with ourselves. Let's just take a step back and be honest with ourselves. Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber can hit it out of any ballpark in the majors.
For sure.
So like we at least have to remember that. Like they're two of the best power hitters in baseball. So ballpark or not, like they're gonna go swimming for a baseball if they get a hold of one. So I just don't know if I'd go to like Alec Boehm at 5,900 today. I don't ever leave Schwarber and Harper out of like any kind of Philly stuff that I do. But I like Marsh's price tag. But yeah, I mean, they're expensive. They're not going to have any ownership, though. They're not going to have any ownership today.
I think Harper and Schwarber will have a little bit. I know they're expensive and it's a ballpark downgrade, but
you're going to see those Howard numbers and you're going to be like,
yeah. But I agree.
Yeah.
Boehm and Real Muto are not going to be owned at all.
He probably shouldn't play those guys, though. Giants, bats. Anything against Wheeler here?
No, I think Wheeler's one of the best real-life pitchers in baseball. Huge ballpark upgrade for him. I have no interest in San Francisco.
I'd be so excited to play him on so many slates, and this just isn't one of them. I mean, I'm not playing bats against him. I can't get excited about playing him on this slate. There's so many underpriced pitchers on this slate. All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Fun podcast. Glad to be back. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us live over there on YouTube. If you haven't already, go over to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page. Hit subscribe. Turn on that bell so you can come hang out with us live. I love the chat. I was so hesitant for so long to do live YouTube shows for the podcast, and I have loved the chat aspect. It just adds so much to the show. So come hang out with us live. I really do enjoy everyone that hangs out with us. Like, yeah, power to you, and I appreciate you. All right, morning grind game under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. We have some options today, Keith. Who are you going with?
We do. I'm going to go with Matt Waldron. He's done it in his last 3 starts, and 2 of those starts were against Atlanta and the Dodgers. So it's not like he's beating up on weak opponents. Like this dude's doing it against the best baseball has to offer. So I'm in on some Matt Waldron today for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to break the rules of the game. I always say you can't pick the 8K guy. I'm not going to break the rules. I like Luzardo to get that, but I'm just going to go with the other guy down in this range and say Hunter Brown. It's a fantastic strikeout matchup. Even if he does give up a few runs in this spot, I like his chances to get 6 or more strikeouts in this spot. You know, he has one start against Seattle this year and he struggled. Over 8K, score under 15. A lot of good options to play. Who do you want to fade today?
Yeah, I know who you're going to say, and I'm not going to take your guy.
I had the mute button ready, just so you know. No, I'm just kidding.
Luis Castillo is my guy. I definitely think he struggles here against Houston. Even if he limits the runs, he's not going to get the strikeouts.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cortez.
Yeah.
If you didn't hear me break it down, go back and listen. That's the best part of the podcast. Go back and listen. Over 4K to hit a home run. We have a lot of options to hit home runs today. This is going to be a high-scoring slate. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. You're going to need a really good team today to win the tournament.
Yeah, definitely agree. I'm going Aaron Judge in this spot. Dude's been red hot. When he gets on these type of tears, like you just have to jam in as much as you can fit.
Obviously you can't go course. A lot of good options in course. The guy that I really like to hit a home run's under 4K today. Just everybody's curious. Joe Adele is like a guy that I love to hit a home run today. He's under 4K. So can't pick him because I can't break the rules of the game, but I really like him to hit a home run today. Man, a lot of good options. Trying to go a little off the board. Let's go all the way back to the early part of the show. I'm going to go with Ozuna to hit a home run today. Love his home run upside in every slate. I was trying to think of like a Toronto bat. Like the Toronto bats have just Bichette was the guy that I was kind of thinking about to hit the home run. But yeah. Ozuna. We'll go Ozuna. Under 4K to get two hits under 4K. Who do you got?
I'm going to go Gleyber Torres. Griffin Canning has not been right this season. Torres is starting to come on a little bit. Been a rough season for him too, but 3,800 is too cheap for him.
Everyone knows who I'm picking. Joe Adele. Yeah, I mean, he might not get 2 hits, but I'll take a home run over 2 singles all day long. Overall, though, I really just like him against lefties this year. I think he's really underrated. And I don't know if he's going to get a ton of ownership against Cortez. So, Hoppy's really good in this spot too. Nato, like all these cheap righties for the Angels are in play for me today. Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who do you got?
As you can probably tell from my last two answers, I love the Yankees today. Like it's just an awesome spot for them.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Yankees a lot. I'm with you on that. To give me the Blue Jays, gosh, they're so incredibly tilting, but you don't get many spots better than Mike Clevenger. He's turning into that guy you just want to stack against every single slate. So give me the Blue Jays. Any player props or pick 'em plays that you like on this slate?
I was just looking through it, and there were a couple numbers I was hoping for. If Cole Reagan's opened at 6.5, I was going to hammer that over. He's at 7.5, but it's plus 125. I'm probably I'm probably going to be on that. Not going to make that official necessarily. Gaussman is plus money over 6.5 as well. I like that. Tristan McKenzie is at 4.5, and I know it's Coors. He relies on a curveball, which is not great. I'm going to dig into McKenzie a little bit more too. I think of those three right now, Gaussman would be my pick. Plus money over 6.5 strikeouts.
Yeah. So mine. I was looking before we got started, and there wasn't a lot for like our slate that we were breaking down, but they did have some of the early stuff up.
There's one I like early too. Yep.
Yeah, Skubal. I like his over 7.5 strikeouts against the Pirates today. Like, dude is just elite. I've been saying it. I have a Cy Young bet for him that I got like preseason, and I just want to keep seeing him dominate. So I like Skubal over 7.5 strikeouts for my pick player prop today. Who was your early one that you liked?
Mine was on the other side of that game. I like Jared Jones over 6.5.
Yeah, you get it at plus money too. Yeah, I mean, I like that too. I think there's gonna be a lot of strikeouts in that game. Any lines, over unders against spread? Anything jumping off the page to you?
Yes. Cole Reagan's is elite. I'm not sure if I'm gonna back him to get 8 strikeouts, but I am gonna back the Royals on the first 5 money line. I think that their offense is really good. Cole Reagan's is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Get them at minus 130 to outscore the Twins in the first 5 innings.
Love this. I'm tailing you right now. I'm with you. I like this a lot. So, yeah. So you could probably guess mine. Anybody that's been listening to the show could probably guess mine. But I really like the Yankees and Angels over 8.5 runs. Keith picked them like the Yankees for over 6 as like his stack to score 6 runs. Angels have been fantastic against left-handed pitching this season. I could see the Yankees doing this by themselves, this number. So give me the Yankees and Angels over 8.5 for my bet today. So a lot of good information, long podcast. We appreciate everyone hanging out. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I love this slate. I thought I liked it coming in. As we got in and broke it down, this is a really great slate.
Fun slate. A lot of options on this slate. Makes it a lot of fun. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow talking baseball. Good luck. We'll see you then.